Who is to be held liable if AI defames you? Welcome to Rook & Co's first episode of Stay Informed. My name is Folajimi Ajayi. I'm going to be talking to you today about something very interesting, something I think you should know about, but if you don't know, it's fine. That's why you're here. I know you've heard the subject of defamation before, but have you heard it from this perspective? Who is to be held liable if AI defames you? So, what is defamation? Defamation is basically any statement, whether written or oral, whether permanent or temporal, that is capable of diminishing the reputation of a person in the sight of another person. Now, you ask me, how does AI come into play? The question is, can AI make a defamatory statement? The answer is in the affirmative. AI can indeed make a defamatory statement. But the further question that comes to mind is, can AI bear any actual liability for any defamatory statement it makes? I know you are pondering. The answer is no. AI cannot bear any form of liability because it is not a legal personality. The law recognizes only natural and artificial persons. The people that may bear eventual liability when it comes to AI defamation are the following. The first of them are content hosts. You would ask, who is a content host? A content host is basically a sort of website or domain host where AI content is being hosted, just as the name implies. An example is Facebook. An example can be Twitter, now known as X. An example can be Thread. Each and every one of these applications that I've made mention of, they all serve as content hosts because contents are published on them. Now, the question is, can Facebook, for example, or any other content host be held liable for a defamatory content made on it or published on it? The answer is no, because by virtue of Section 230 of the First Amendment, using the US laws as a case study, because Nigeria does not have any specific law to that effect yet. Considering this, you'd see that the immunity that this section provides applies to content hosts. However, it depends on the circumstances. Now, you ask me, what are the circumstances? If the content hosts merely hosts the content, that is, they just published on Facebook, of course, Facebook is exempted from liability because Facebook was not the one that published it and Facebook shouldn't be an eventual liability. However, don't forget that to every law, there is an exception. If Facebook uses an AI, for example, Meta AI, to give information, then you note that Facebook can now bear some degree of eventual liability because the information that the AI fed others with was a result of the data with which it was trained. So in the case where Meta AI, acting on behalf of Facebook, giving an information on behalf of Facebook, says something defamatory, then Facebook may bear eventual liability. Another party that may bear eventual liability when it comes to AI defamation is the model creator. Who is an AI model creator? This is basically the person that put together the AI, the person that created the AI. For example, many of you are familiar with ChatGPT. ChatGPT did not just bloom into existence, it was created by some people, and those are the people that we call AI model creators. In case of ChatGPT, the model creator is called OpenAI. Now, OpenAI may bear eventual liability, for instance, where ChatGPT makes a defamatory statement. You'd ask me why. The reason is because OpenAI is responsible for the data that was fed to create the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is only a creation that was fed on data. It only reproduces what it was fed on in a pattern that tries to imitate the human thinking process. So you have it there. Now, the AI model creators bear eventual liability because they are the one who trained the AI using data. They are the one that supplied the data, so it will be assumed that the data that they have supplied the artificial intelligence is what it has brought out. Now, there is a very important thing to note when it comes to this part of eventual liability. If the model creator has specifically stated, like in the case of ChatGPT, that users should not depend solely on the output, or that the output may be wrong, or that there may be mistakes, as in the case of ChatGPT. If anybody uses ChatGPT, for example, you'd see that beneath it is clearly stated that ChatGPT can make mistakes. So in that case, they have shifted a degree of burden away from their shoulder by informing the user that there is a risk in using the application or the AI. So by stating that, they have shifted that off their shoulders. So please take note, if you are using artificial intelligence, be sure to check, is there any sort of warning there, so that you don't fall into the pit hole. A very important case to back this up is the case of Walters against OpenAI, and this was one of the things that the court held, that when the artificial intelligence already told you that it can make mistakes, then why depend solely on the information it gives you? Another category of people who may bear eventual liability are AI content creators. What does this mean? When a content creator makes use of AI to create content, and that content defames another person, there is a very high tendency that if a suit is brought up in the sphere of defamation, that person may bear eventual liability. The reason for this is simple. The law has been clear on this subject matter. Every person who puts out a content must be aware of the content he puts out. That is, don't put out something that you know to be false. So if you're a content creator and you don't verify the content you're putting out there, there's a very high tendency that if what you put out defames somebody, you may bear eventual liability. In conclusion, from what I've said so far, you know now that not one person, not two, in fact, not even three persons may bear eventual liability. We have discussed only three in this episode, but please note that not only those three may bear eventual liability. Depending on the facts and circumstances, more categories of people may bear eventual liability. The law is not static. It has never been static, and it will never be static, because the people that it is addressing are not static. The government, institutions should make laws and policies around this area of law to ensure that the activities of AI is properly monitored. I hope from today's episode of Stay Informed, you have learned about artificial intelligence, defamation, and those who may bear eventual liability. I hope to see you next episode.